The silent wealth killer the Bible warned us about. Don't ignore this. The invisible hole in your pocket. Right now, as you watch this, someone is stealing from you. They aren't breaking into your house, and they aren't hacking your phone, but your money is disappearing anyway. In the next hour, I'm going to show you the silent wealth killer that the Bible warned us about thousands of years ago. Most people ignore it until they are 80 years old and have $0 in the bank. But if you understand this one simple secret, you can stop the leak and build a life of freedom. I've spent months researching ancient texts and modern math to prove that what worked 3,000 years ago is the only thing that works today. If you leave this video early, you're basically leaving your wallet open on a busy sidewalk. Let's get into it. Section 1. The mystery of the leaky bucket. Demystify inflation and debt using relatable imagery to show why playing it safe can sometimes be the riskiest move of all. The analogy, the bucket and the slow drip. Imagine you've spent the entire day working under a hot sun. Your reward? A sturdy wooden bucket filled to the brim with cool, clear water. This water represents your hard-earned money, your time, your sweat, and your effort transformed into something valuable. You set the bucket down, feeling proud and secure. But here's the mystery. You come back an hour later, and the water level has dropped. You haven't touched it. There are no splashes. But look closely at the bottom. There is a tiny, rhythmic drip. This is the reality of our financial system. Most people think money is like a rock, solid and unchanging. In reality, money is like water in a leaky bucket. If you just let it sit there, it disappears bit by bit, not because you spent it, but because the container itself is flawed. Section 2. The biblical connection. Haggai's warning. This isn't a new problem. Humans have been dealing with leaky buckets for thousands of years. In the book of Haggai, chapter 1, verse 6, there is a profound observation. You have planted much, but harvested little. You eat, but never have enough. You drink, but never have your fill. You put on clothes, but are not warm. You earn wages, only to put them in a purse with holes in it. Think about that image, a purse with holes. You work 40 hours a week, you get your paycheck, and you tuck it away safely. But because of the holes in our economy, the value of those wages begins to drain out before you even get a chance to go to the store. The why, the ghost of inflation. Why does the bucket leak? We call that leak inflation. Inflation is the reason why your grandfather tells stories about buying a loaf of bread for a nickel. It's not that the bread became magical or more valuable over time, it's that the dollar became weaker. The candy bar test. When your parents were kids, a chocolate bar might have cost 50 cents. When you were born, maybe it was $1. Today, that same bar, same sugar, same wrapper, is $2. The dying power. The money didn't change its look, but its power died. A $20 bill in 1990 could fill a grocery cart. Today, that same $20 bill might only get you a bag of apples and some milk. If your money isn't growing faster than the leak is dripping, you are technically getting poorer every single day, even if you don't spend a dime. The trap, the danger of the piggy bank. Here is the hardest truth to swallow. The safest place is often the most dangerous.
We are taught from childhood that saving is the ultimate virtue. We put our coins in a ceramic piggy bank or a standard savings account earning 0.01% interest. We feel responsible. We feel secure. But if the leak, inflation, is draining your bucket at 3 to 5% a year and your savings account is only adding water at 0.01% a year, you are losing the race. The trap. By saving cash in a stagnant place, you are guaranteeing a loss of purchasing power. You are effectively watching your water evaporate while congratulating yourself on how still the bucket is. To survive the mystery of the leaky bucket, you have to learn how to outpace the drip. Section 2. The giant called interest. Goal: to illustrate that interest is a neutral force, a giant that can either build your city or crush your house, depending on which side of the fence you stand. In the world of money, there is a force so powerful it can make a person a king or a captive. We call this giant interest. Interest is simply the price of time. If you want something now but don't have the money, you have to rent someone else's money. That rent is the interest. The problem is that most people meet the bad giant first. The wealth killer at work. Imagine you see a pair of limited edition sneakers for $200. You don't have the cash, so you swipe a credit card. You tell yourself, I'll pay it back later. But the giant doesn't work for free. Because you rented that $200, the giant charges you a fee every month. By the time you finally finish paying for those shoes a year later, you haven't paid $200. You've paid $260. While the shoes are getting old and scuffed, the giant is getting fatter on your extra $60. You are working hard at your job just to feed a giant that gave you a temporary toy. This is how wealth dies, one small monthly payment at a time. 2. The biblical warning, the chains of the slave. The Bible doesn't mince words when it comes to the bad giant. Proverbs 22:7 gives us a sobering reality check. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is the slave to the lender. When you carry debt for things that disappear, like clothes, cars, or vacations, you aren't just borrowing money, you are pre-selling your future time. If you have a $500 car payment every month, you are essentially waking up on the first of the month and working the first several days just to hand your paycheck to the bank. You are trapped in a cage of past decisions. We want to move from being the one in the cage to being the one holding the key. We want to meet the good giant. 3. Interactive story. The tale of two friends, Sam versus Joe. To see how these two giants change a life, let's look at two friends, Sam and Joe, who both start with $30,000. Sam and the shiny trap. Sam wants the world to see his success. He uses his $30,000 as a down payment on a luxury $80,000 sports car. He takes out a massive loan for the remaining $50,000. The result: every month he pays the bad giant $900 in principal and interest. 5 years later, the car is worth only $35,000. It lost value, and Sam has paid over $10,000 in interest alone. His wealth was eaten by the car and the bank. Sam is exhausted from working to keep the car in his driveway.
Joe and the seed strategy. Joe decides to drive a reliable, used car he bought for cash. He takes his $30,000 and puts it to work by buying a piece of the world, shares in a diversified group of companies, the stock market. The result? Instead of Joe paying a giant, the giant starts paying Joe. The companies he partially owns work hard to make a profit, and they share that profit with him. 5 years later, Joe's $30,000 has grown through the power of compound interest. Without Joe lifting a finger, his money has birthed money babies. His bucket isn't just full, it's overflowing because he chose to be the lender, the investor, rather than the borrower. 4. Summary. Switching sides. The difference between Sam and Joe isn't how much they earn, it's which giant they serve. Sam works for his money, but Joe's money works for him. One friend is a slave to a depreciating piece of metal, while the other is a partner in the world's growth. The goal of this journey is to stop feeding the wealth killer and start feeding the wealth builder. Section 3. The secret weapon, the seed strategy. Goal: to shift the mindset from spending to planting, proving that time and consistency are more powerful than a high salary. 1. The lesson: don't eat your future. Most people view a dollar as something to be consumed. They see a $5 bill and think, that's a fancy coffee. They see a $100 bill and think, that's a new pair of jeans. But a wealth builder sees a dollar as a seed. Imagine you are holding a single apple. Inside that apple are a handful of seeds. The consumer's choice: you eat the apple and you throw the seeds in the trash. You are full for an hour, but tomorrow you are hungry again and must work to buy another apple. The planker's choice: you eat the apple, but you carefully save the seeds. You press them into the dirt. You water them. For a long time, nothing happens, but eventually a sprout appears. Years later, you don't just have an apple, you have an orchard. If you eat every dollar you earn, you will be a laborer for the rest of your life. If you plant your dollars, eventually those money trees will produce enough fruit that you never have to work a day in your life again. You aren't just buying things, you are buying your freedom. 2. The math, the miracle of compound interest. You don't need to be a math genius to understand the secret weapon. You just need to understand the snowball effect. When you plant a money seed, it grows. Then that new growth starts growing its own seeds. The $1 to $100 journey simplified. Imagine you have $1. If you can make that dollar grow by a small amount every year, let's say it doubles every few years, it doesn't just grow in a straight line. In the beginning, it feels slow. $1 becomes 2, then 4, then 8. You might feel like you're failing because 8 doesn't buy much. But because you left it alone, the numbers start to explode. 16, 32, 64. And suddenly that original $1 is 128. The secret isn't the dollar, it's the time you give it to grow. The longer the seed stays in the ground, the more massive the tree becomes. This is why a 20-year-old who saves $50 a month can end up wealthier than a 50-year-old who saves $1,000 a month. Time is the multiplier. 3. The Bible verse, the power of little by little. Our culture loves the get-rich-quick scheme, the lottery, the viral stock, the lucky break. But the Bible gives us a much more reliable blueprint for success in Proverbs 13:11. Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. There is a spiritual and psychological discipline in the little by little. When you gather slowly, you develop the character to manage what you have. If you were handed $1 million today without the seed planting mindset, you would likely eat it all within a year. By gathering little by little, you are building a foundation that won't wash away when the storm comes.
4. The golden rule. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. We've all heard stories of professional athletes or lottery winners who made $50 million and went broke. Why? Because they had a massive bucket, but they didn't have a plug for the leak, and they never planted their seeds. The income myth. If I just made $20,000 more a year, I'd be rich. The reality, if your expenses grow as fast as your income, you are just a fancier version of broke. True wealth is the gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap is your seed bag. If you earn $3,000 and spend $3,000, your seed bag is empty. If you earn $3,000 and spend $2,700, you have $300 worth of freedom to plant every single month. Summary table. The planter versus the eater. Feature. The eater, consumer. The planter, investor. View of $1, something to spend. A seed to grow. Strategy. Get rich quick. Gather little by little. Focus. How much I make. How much I keep. Future. Always working for money. Money eventually works for them. Section 4. The 3-step shield. Goal. To move from understanding to doing with a simple, bulletproof plan that even a 4th grader can master. 1. Step 1. Kill the holes. Protect your bucket. Before you can grow an orchard, you have to stop the water from leaking out of your bucket. The biggest leak in most people's lives isn't a high bill, it's the cool factor. The problem. We often buy things we don't need, with money we don't have, to impress people we don't even like. That's a massive hole in your bucket. The fix. Every time you go to buy something, a new video game, a pair of shoes, a fancy drink, ask yourself, is this a seed or is this a leak? The shield. If it's just to look cool for a week, it's a leak. Patch the hole. Keep that money in your bucket so you have something to plant later. You don't need the flashiest bucket. You need the fullest one. 2. Step 2. Plant the seeds. The weekly habit. Once you've patched the holes, you'll find you have a little bit of extra water, money, left over. Now comes the fun part, planting. The habit. Don't wait until the end of the month to see what's left. That's like trying to plant seeds in the winter. Instead, plant first. The method. Every single week, whether it's $5, $50, or $500, put a portion of your money into things like grow. Stocks. Buying a tiny piece of a giant company like Apple, Disney, or Amazon. When they work, you get paid. Business. Investing in your own ideas or tools that help you earn more. The goal. You want to move your money from your spending pocket to your growing pocket. Once it goes into the growing pocket, it stays there. It's no longer money, it's a future tree. 3. Step 3. Be patient. The time shield. This is the hardest step because we live in a microwave world.
We want the popcorn in 2 minutes, but wealth is like a giant oak tree. The reality check. If you plant an apple seed today and dig it up tomorrow to see if it's growing, you'll kill it. You have to leave it in the dirt. The growth curve. For the first few years, your money tree might look like a tiny, pathetic twig. Your friends might laugh because they have cool shoes and you just have a stick in the mud. The payoff. But 10 years from now, their shoes will be in a landfill and your stick will have branches, leaves, and fruit. You can't rush a tree and you can't rush wealth. Time is the secret ingredient that turns a tiny seed into a massive forest. The 3-step summary table. Step. Action. The goal. 1. Kill the holes. Stop buying cool stuff you don't need. Keep your money in the bucket. 2. Plant the seeds. Save a little bit every single week. Start the good giant working for you. 3. Be patient. Leave the money alone for a long time. Let the tree grow big enough to shade you. The outro. The choice. Time. 5:50 to 1:00. Goal. A high-energy, empowering call to action that connects financial freedom to a higher purpose. 1. The graduation. You are now the expert. Host. Take a deep breath. Look at what you've learned today. In less than an hour, we've pulled back the curtain on the mystery of the leaky bucket, stared down the giant of interest, and discovered the secret weapon of the seed. I'm going to tell you something that might shock you. You now know more about how money actually works than 90% of adults. Most people go through their entire lives frustrated, wondering why their bucket is always empty, never realizing there was a hole in the bottom they could have patched. They spend 40 years feeding a bad giant and wonder why they're tired, but that's not you, not anymore. 2. The warning. Don't let the shield drop. Knowledge is only power if you use it. The silent killer, that slow drip of inflation and the trap of easy debt, is just waiting for you to be lazy. It's waiting for you to walk out of this room and forget the 3-step shield. It wants you to see a shiny new toy and think, it's only $20 a month. It wants you to think that your little $5 seed doesn't matter, but you know better. You have the shield in your hand. You have the seeds in your pocket. The only way the killer wins if you choose to set your shield down. 3. The mission. Freedom for a reason. Why does this matter? Why did the Bible spend so much time warning us about coins, bags with holes, and the chains of debt? It's not because money is the most important thing in the world. It's because freedom is. The Bible warns us because it wants us to be free to live out our true purpose. Think about it. You can't feed a hungry person if your own bucket is bone dry. You can't help a neighbor fix their roof if you are a slave to a credit card company. You can't be a blessing to your community if you're constantly stressed about your own leaks. We don't build an orchard just so we can sit in the shade alone. We build it so we can give the fruit away to those who are still hungry. We plant so we can be the hands and feet of help in a world that is hurting. 4. The final call. Plant today. So, here is your challenge. Don't wait until you're older. Don't wait until you make more money. A tree planted today is always better than a tree you plan to plant tomorrow. Go home, patch one hole, find one cool thing you don't need and say no to it. Take that money, even if it's just a few dollars, and plant your very first seed. The good giant is ready to start working for you. Your future self is already thanking you for the shade you're starting to grow right now. Go out there, be a builder, and let's change the world, one seed at a time.